The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
The poorly produced sequel that is 40 years too late, that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
Yeah.
Okay, can we just cut to the point of what we're both going to say, that I know we're both going to say? Just watch Death Race, the first one, and you've seen this one, the better version of this one.
This is just a remake. This is not a sequel. In
Almost
no way.
beat for beat.
Yes, it's insane. Like I don't know how they are. Like I even like looked around. Like maybe I misread this as being a sequel, but everywhere it is billed as a sequel. But it is not.
No.
Which is a shame. Like the way the other one ended, I was like, there could be, what if Frankenstein becomes the president and things get bad again? Like there's a lot of room for a new. But this is nothing that happened in that first movie is ever referenced.
No,
this is just a remake.
Right? Yeah, 100%. It is the second remake, right? Mm-hmm. Not counting the sequels.
Yeah, because the Jason Statham one was just called Death Race, and it was, I think, a direct remake. And then there were the prequels to the Jason Statham ones,
right?
And maybe a sequel to those. I think there's like 4 of those or something. But yeah, this is supposed to have been directly connected to the original, and other than it being produced by Roger Corman, it's just a bad remake. So
I mean, I guess let me just go ahead and say, just so everyone knows, there will be bare breasts, quite a few of them. There will be some stereotypes. So many. I am disheartened by the stereotypes, even though they lampshade one, right? It's like, oh, just kidding. It wasn't really a stereotype because this person's not who you think they are exactly. But and then the gay thing.
Yeah,
it could be handled better. Let's just say that.
Right. Yeah, and it's so wild. Like Malcolm McDowell is in this.
Right.
Like he is. I mean, I know he's one of those actors who's like. He just likes working. Like, he will be in stuff that's not, like, great.
Listen, this man was in Fists of the North Star. He does not give a shit what he's in.
Yeah. But, yeah, this is a different level of that. Like, this is... this isn't, like, Rob Zombie Halloween. This is pretty bad.
This is rough, yeah. I mean, his part was great. Malcolm McDowell can only make movies better, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's chewing the scenery. He's having a good time. He's vaguely a Trump parody, but, like, not overdoing it or anything. Yeah.
His is perfection, though. The jokes that he is the butt of is perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely the shining light of this movie.
And whereas I normally like Manu Bennett, like, is he acting in this or is he just kind of preaching at a point, right?
Right. Yeah, I only know him from the Arrow TV series where he's like Deathstroke, but I mean, he feels like he's playing a pretty similar character in this. I wasn't familiar with anything else he had done.
Yeah, he's always a badass. He's kind of like The Rock, whereas Tammy will call him Saint Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, pretty much if like. Did you ever see the Shannara Chronicles? He was in that as well.
No.
He was in The Hobbit movies, Desolation of Small. He's Azog, the main bad guy.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, yes, he's always a badass.
Yeah.
In pretty much everything he does. But, yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the charisma of David Carradine, which is kind of a weird thing to say. Because David Carradine has charisma, but it's like base charisma. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas here, like you said, he's just preachy the whole time. Like
Yes. And it's weird old man preaching, which is like, you just got to get up and do things. Okay, but what? What are those things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can tell how we feel about it. I don't think we need to go too much further, but let's go ahead and break this thing down, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to immediately start off with a song and dance number where we have people in the calavera makeup. You know, the skull face makeup.
Yeah. And we've got like a big cheering crowd in like a coliseum. When we see it from the outside, it's obviously bad CGI. But once we get in there, you can see people there. This feels like Idiocracy a little bit to me.
Dude, so much like the people slugging down like barrel-sized bowls of popcorn. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a funny, smart movie. I was wrong. I was the idiot.
Yeah, I mean, mostly, you got new racers that are different sort of like stereotypes.
They're different, but they're the same, right?
Yeah. I would say I think the thing that I most enjoyed about this movie is all of the place names.
Yes.
It's an ongoing gag where everywhere we go, we'll find out like this place, formerly this place that we know, and those are some pretty good gags.
Yeah,
but
well, I mean, now because it's the United Corporations of America, that's a great joke. That's funny.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it's depressing, actually, because it's very realistic. But also, like, the irony there, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And so we'll meet Malcolm McDowell, who appears as like a giant CGI figure over the city.
Yeah, initially I was thinking he was the junior of the movie because he's that flamboyant, right? Mm-hmm. Turns out, no, he's Mr. President.
Yeah, I think they call him the chairman in this instead of the president. But yeah, I mean, he's basically the same character as the president.
There's a reference there, right? The chairman? Mm-hmm. The chairman of the board, yeah.
Yeah, so he gives his speech, about Plymouth Rock and freedom and all this, and he says this is the 5th annual death race. Mm-hmm. So, like, at this point in the movie, I still think it's a sequel, so I'm like, okay, so Death Race 2000, obviously, it was the year 2000, now we're in 2050, so there must have been, like, 45 years of, like, normal life, and then something happened, but no, it's just the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. So we get our first driver, who is Tammy the Terrorist, who is a fundamentalist, quote-unquote Christian, more like pop culturist.
Yeah, it's like she's definitely, seems like a Westboro Baptist kind of like, ultra conservative religious, but there's but yeah, like everything she references, like you said, she says something about Saint Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Right. All of her like religious references
Death to the non-believers and praise Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of like raise hell, praise Dale.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very just like America, Like I think she's even wearing like an American flag.
She is
outfit
with the
or
crosses on her boots.
Mm-hmm.
But she also sets up a gag where she put a special surprise for someone in Section G, which is basically suicide bomb. That's her thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she runs this church of like crazy religious fundamentalists, and she's like the central figure, the sort of cult leader.
Oh, who's that lady who did the what is it, Cotaloid Silver?
Mother God, the cult of the Mother God. I don't remember what her real name was, but it's a similar vibe for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's basically that if you mix the Southern Baptists, right?
Yeah. And so once she like kills a bunch of people in the stands with one of her, congregation members blowing themselves up, the announcers are like, "Well, we're not sure. The race hasn't even started. Do these kills count?" And so they're like, "Let's go over the point system." And so we get a rundown of that again.
All right. So they changed up the points for this one. It's 10 for adults, 20 for kids, 50 for old people. So here's kind of where I feel that should be completely flipped, right? You should have more points for the people who can dodge. Mm-hmm. And less for those that are just kind of stationary.
Yeah, it does seem strange. Like
either that or that's the joke, is that we're lazy and want easy points.
And well, they actually do sort of explain why a death race would be a thing here, whereas the first movie, it's just kind of, there's no real explanation. Here, it's because the population continues to grow at an alarming rate. We have free sterilization clinics, but no one's using them.
Right.
And we made the mistake of curing cancer.
Yeah, we've cured cancer, yeah. That's the terrible thing, right?
Yeah, so now the population is exploding, so this is our way. It's our purge. It's our way that we're gonna control the population a little bit. Which
maybe it's because we're almost 10 years. Almost 10 years later. It's like everyone's talking about how the entire world's population is just decreasing, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the problem.
Yeah, which I think we're a long way away from that being a problem.
Yeah.
The news is trying to make it like a scare thing.
Yes.
But, of course, like, this is the reality. When things get bad, people don't reproduce because they don't want to introduce children into this. Like, we're afraid of, climate change and just political unrest and everything, so people aren't reproducing as much. Obviously, but yeah, it seems like dystopian stuff always goes with like the population boom kind of stuff, right. Or we're sterile because some horrible thing has happened,
right? And, but that's kind of like the issue with the 70s. I think they were also worried about overpopulation. The population bomb is what I think they used to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the big thing. Yeah. Either way, basically, people are telling you there are too many people or not enough people. They're full of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many people, like it's not really a concern at this point.
Right.
It's,
we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
100%. Then we get Minerva Jefferson, who her name's almost as stereotypical as the rest of her personality is made out to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's a newcomer to the race, but she's a successful recording artist, and this is her way of promoting her new single.
Right, and her recordings are also sex tapes. So she does music and sex tapes.
Yeah. So, and this movie came out in like 2016. So obviously they're making jokes about like the Kardashians here and Paris Hilton and stuff like that. But like she specifically is like a rapper.
Yeah.
Sort of. She's what a white movie executive might think a rapper could possibly be like.
Yes.
Her hit single, I don't know that it's ever named, but I think it's probably called like Drive, Drive, Kill.
Yeah, because that's the entire song right there. Done.
Yeah. And like you said, she's a stereotype of just like a particular kind of like urban black woman that a lot of like rich white people are afraid of.
Right. Like, okay, so we're going to go ahead and get this out of the way right now because it needs to be said sooner rather than later. This is intelligent commentary for one reason. She is actually a really intelligent person who was educated at Stanford, and they're using the system against itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, maybe we could have heard that earlier, or at least, had an inkling, right?
Yeah, it takes a long time before we get this one sort of scene where we're sort of like revealed to like the true version of her.
Which, here's the question that I then ask. If it took so long, is it because this was the plan for the story, or is it because someone said, dude, that's fucked up? You need to fix it.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like if this was the plan for the story, there's a better way to go about it. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like a lot of the stereotyping, I mean, she just is this character, and I feel like if a lot of it came from, like, external sources, other people talking about how she is, then it would make more sense. Like, what is that? The movie that just recently came out. I have not seen the movie, but I've read the book. The book's called Erasure. The premise of the story is that it's an author who is like a serious academic writer. He's black, and nobody cares about his stuff. So he writes a book in like urban dialect and tries to like make like a popular book for black people in like the like he's doing it as a joke.
American fiction.
American fiction, yes. And it just like the movie or his like sort of parody novel blows up as being like people really like it because it feels like it's an authentic black experience. And he's like, no, it's not. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And but that, obviously was done really intelligently, and like, it's about that sort of disconnect between what people think black culture is versus
what it really
the reality
is.
And everything. This is not handled as delicately. Of course, this is a kind of a trashy exploitation movie that, Roger Corman produced this, probably never, I'm sure, 2016, this was when he was like mostly checked out and just like, his name was getting put on stuff.
Yeah, he was just stamping it and writing checks and cashing checks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, straight to video, direct to video. Like this is not an art house film by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I mean, that goes with the phrase, black or X culture is not a monolith. It's different everywhere.
Yeah,
every area has its own flavor.
Yeah, and there's so often that like, black people are asked to speak on behalf of all black people,
how can
which
you
is
do
insane.
That?
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like, I'm not trying to put my personal like experience above anyone else's. It's just I'm just kind of saying where I'm coming from, right? That's like when people are like, "Hey, you're Hispanic, you're Latino. How do you feel about Cinco de Mayo?" It's like, that's not my day. I'm Puerto Rican, man. That's a whole other world.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and like even like amongst Puerto Ricans, there's multiple things going on. There's
you also
cultures.
have New Yorkers, you have Islanders, and then the rest of the diaspora.
Yeah. So like, and I don't know. I feel like I would be surprised if there were any black people involved in the creation of this character. And I think if there had been at least one person there who was like, this could be done more delicately, she might have been a better character. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you said, I do appreciate that in the end we find out that she is sort of playing up on what white people think she should be, and using that to her advantage, but still, all the same, it could have been handled a little better.
Yeah. There should have been an inkling of something else is going on, right? Mm-hmm. Then we also get this weird, like, the characters that lived in the bombed out Beverly Hills / the slums of everywhere around the world, they have no effect on anything. But we still see the same guy like multiple times. Yeah,
like we never get this guy's name.
Mm-hmm. We do learn that his grandma, who's 115 years old at the time of this movie, meaning she was born in 1935, is taking her insulin along with her shots. Mm-hmm. She's taking shots with her shots.
Right. So we're introduced to these people specifically so that we can learn that the sort of nice thing about this race or whatever is that there's like a whole VR setup. Mm-hmm. So you can put on your VR helmet from home and you can toggle between every driver has like they're not called navigators in this, they're called proxies.
Right.
And they're wearing like GoPro helmets basically.
Yeah, because proxies for the audience, right?
Yeah, so the audience can hitch a ride in any different cockpit and see what's going on at various points of the race, and it's in smell-o-vision even. Like there's a whole part where they make a joke about what the drivers smell like and stuff. But
honestly, though, that sounds kind of like a good idea for sports, right?
Yeah, like you're just really there for everything. But yeah, beyond that, like we're introduced to this guy with like a little gag where he's like in a bar and there's just a bunch of like hot topless women around him and he's like about to kiss one of them and then his VR.
Grandma.
Yeah, it's his grandma. His VR glitches out or whatever and he's like, whoa, I just almost kissed my grandma. And,
do you know where my insulin is?
Yeah. And so we'll keep seeing these characters, but they're not really characters. They're just kind of like reminding us that this is happening.
Caricatures.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we get the wonderful Jed Perfectus.
Yes. So he is like a product of genetic engineering, and everyone's like, this could be the guy who could dethrone Frankenstein, the champ. Like he's, made in a lab to be a death racer. So this is...
I feel like if they were going to do that, though, they would have named him something other than Jed Perfectus.
Yeah.
It must have been an American lab, right?
Right. So he's about to give this big speech, and suddenly Frankenstein enters the building, and everyone just like forgets about Jed because like, oh, it's Frankenstein. He's the guy we all like. So we get like a montage of all these different people praising how great he is. Jed is so mad. Frankenstein's outdated. I'm the next stage in evolution. I'm gonna show that he's bound for the scrap heap. I'm the new thing.
Right. He's the machine gun. What was his name?
Joe Viterbo.
Yeah, Machine Gun Joe of this movie, right?
Mm-hmm. We finally get a look at Frank. Here, it's similar. He's in all black, but instead of like the kind of like gimp mask with the eye cutouts, he has this like sort of elongated skull kind of shape. It almost kind of looks like the Punisher skull a little bit. It goes down like part of the way down his chest. I mean, he looks like more modern and scary. Like
this is a more modern day gimp suit / combat riot gear, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we meet the next racer, Abe, an AI-controlled car.
This fucking thing. Like, this is another boomer who's afraid of AI. Like, don't get me wrong, AI is terrifying mainly because of its invasiveness, but it's too stupid to be an AI.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is, it's a mix of, like, people being worried about, self-driving Teslas and...
Don't worry. Be afraid of those. They are dangerous because they don't give a shit.
Yeah. But, like, as far as the AI goes in here, it's kind of a little Knight Rider and a little, the classic thing of, like, the AI gets broken and does not compute and just kind of goes rogue. Obviously, that's where this is going to go.
Right. His proxy is Dr. Von Kramer, who is his creator. And she has a little thing for her own creation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a strange character. We don't get much of her here, but we'll get more later. That's like, okay, sure.
But we also learn that the AI and Abe specifically, his kind, have liberated 99% of Americans from employment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says like the burden of jobs, and like this movie's definitely trying to say that like that's a bad thing, that like people need fulfillment through work.
Yeah, that's such a fucking boomer American like mentality. It's like, no, fucking live your life. Like, you're gonna want to do something else. Like, I think people misunderstand the like wanting to be liberated from the 9 to 5 as not wanting to work. No, it's wanting to work on something that they find fulfilling versus having to work on something to fucking live.
Yeah.
So this is not a bad thing, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Like, I feel like, I'm a huge Kurt Vonnegut fan, but Play Your Piano, one of his first books, has always kind of bothered me because it's the same sort of premise. Like, machinery has taken over all factories and people don't have to work and they're all depressed because of it and all this. Which the sad thing is, so the reality we're now living in, AI can't do, can't be like work as waiters or wash dishes or do factory work. Right. It's being used to create art.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing. That's the thing I fucking hate. It's like you're trying to tear out the humanity when you should be fucking doing the other stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, let the robots build cars and let us make art. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, corporate ideas. Well, in their mind, it's like they don't think of art as something that people should want to do. People should want to work because it gives them money and makes them rich.
Yeah, so the executives want content creation AI because
that way you don't have to do it. We can do it for you, and you can buy it from us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you know where we are. So
yeah,
we're going to get off our preaching helmets here right now.
Yeah. And so then we go back to Frankenstein, who is about to get into his car and, like in the first movie, is just meeting his co-pilot.
Literally the same name, Annie Sullivan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, how is this a sequel?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like, Frankenstein could be Frankenstein. That's the whole point of the first movie, is that it's multiple dudes over, a long period of time.
Yeah.
But no, Annie Sullivan. And so, like, in this situation, it's like, we know what's going to happen here. Like, we know who Annie Sullivan is. We've seen the movie.
Yeah.
And, sure enough, that's what we'll find out later. She's connected to the Resistance and all that. But
now, there is a funny little twist on the Resistance, but we'll get there. There.
Yeah. But, there's tension between them. Frankenstein's, like a guy who'd rather do everything himself.
Yeah,
He's
he
not
doesn't
really
need
happy.
no proxy, right?
Yeah, you're just going to distract me, and you're just added weight in the car. I don't need all of that.
Yeah.
and she's like, "Oh, all this macho bullshit is gold. I'm sad I don't have my headset turned on yet. People would love this."
You're not going to turn it on. Don't you do it.
Yeah. So they, she does end up getting in the car. They roll into the stadium. Crowd goes crazy, and Annie's like, "Oh wow, people like you." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm the national hero, of course."
Right, and of course Jed threatens Frankenstein and then spits on his car, and he's like, "You're gonna regret that, Jed."
Yeah, that literally exactly happened with Joe Viterbo in the last movie.
Yep.
And then we go back to the chairman, who is about to do like the "and they're off" kind of thing.
Yeah, I love each and every one of you.
Yeah.
The one thing that can kill an American is another American.
Right.
Fair.
We defeated Europe and Asia and cancer, but yeah. So he sends them off, and we, start the race, so this race starts in old New York and is going to go to new Los Angeles.
Right. Which is the same place as old Los Angeles.
Right, yeah. So we right away are establishing that Tammy and Minerva hate each other, which feels like a good fit,
Well, Tammy also hates everybody, right? Because she's like annoyed at the Abe she's like, science can't defeat the divine truth, and math is for heathens and nerds.
Yeah. But she swears by Saint Dwayne the Rock Johnson that she's going to slap that sinful tramp Minerva. And so they kind of head off in their direction. Meanwhile, Jed and Frankenstein, they're also, kind of like trying to shove each other off the road.
Yeah.
Which leads to Frankenstein being pushed up an on-ramp into a parking garage.
But he goes up and over. He does some off-roading stuff, right?
Yeah, Annie's like, "You got to turn around to get back on the track," and he's like, "Nah, I don't turn around."
Right.
So
Fair.
yeah, they go to the top, and he launches off of the parking garage rooftop, which obviously scares Annie quite a bit.
Yeah.
And he ends up crashing into Jed when he launches off, and Jed almost gets knocked off a cliff, but is able to use a harpoon gun to pull himself back onto stable land.
I guess, but I do like how he then turns to the camera of his co-pilot and he's like, "Do you like me now, America?" And then everyone's like, "Eh."
Yeah.
So no, they don't. They don't give a shit.
And so then we're with Frankenstein and Annie. They're they've kind of gotten to safety. They're still driving, but they don't have someone messing with them at the moment. And Frankenstein just pulls off his mask and helmet.
Yep, just a normal guy again.
Yeah, and Annie's like, "What? Nobody's ever seen your..." It seems like the VR thing, this is the first year we're doing the VR thing, right?
Yeah. And it blows his cover because everyone's like, "What the fuck? He's just a guy."
Yeah, and he's like, "It doesn't... The mask is a gimmick, plus it's itchy. I don't like it."
Yeah, I always take it off after the first, couple minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But, so, what?
Right.
It made sense in the first one, right?
Yeah, they're on the road by themselves. Sure, he can take off the mask, but here he knows he's being recorded. It doesn't make a lot of... I mean, it makes sense in that, we don't want to have an actor in a big mask the entire movie. We want to have more, human interaction between the two of them. But there's no explanation for why you would just take it off, and, the cameras... it's just a sloppier version of the previous movie.
Right, exactly. Then we're going to cut back to the chairman, who's sitting around drinking these really weird blue martinis that I think may just be Windex.
Right, yeah.
But he's just bragging on himself about how he's created so many jobs. You like jobs, right? You like a job. And basically everyone's like, "Yeah, we just want to live and eat." Mm-hmm. Which, okay, that makes sense. If that was the joke for the whole movie, instead of you have the lackeys here and then everyone else is just surviving, but they're slobs.
Yeah. And so, the lackey's here in the room with him. He's got a bunch of topless women who seem like they're just there to just...
be topless.
It's just eye candy. And then you have a bunch of guys who look like they're Secret Service guys. They're in suits and sunglasses, but they're cleaning. They're doing maid work because I guess...
They're cleaning his shoes. That's all they're doing.
Yeah. And he has kind of a ridiculous hairstyle that
it's Trump. It's a Trump parody for sure.
Yeah, it's a weird comb over that's definitely nodding towards Trump.
Yeah.
Of course, he's really upset because Frankenstein took off the mask. The whole country has seen Frankenstein and knows
he's just a guy.
Yeah, just a guy. So
now he's a little annoyed though. He's like, I
yeah.
did like Frankenstein, but
yeah, this is going to be a problem.
yeah.
So then we kind of go back to the race footage, and we get like commentators talking. We see a whole map of the country, and the country, like, it's kind of divided up into like provinces now instead of states. There's like I don't know, like 10 different sort of zones.
Right. Isn't there Carceria or something like that?
Yeah. There's 1%ia,
Yeah. 1%.
Pharmatopia,
Yeah.
Upper Carcinogena.
Yeah.
The call center territories,
Fucking A, man.
Gas Arcana,
Yeah.
the Amazon, Caucasia, the Googleplex, and the Digital Zone.
Yeah, that sounds about right, actually. I think they nailed that one.
Yeah.
But there's one that we didn't really mention because it doesn't bear, and it'll pop up later. That would be the Appalachian Desert, which consists primarily of Kentucky, and that hurts. But also,
Yeah.
I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah. So we've seen these kind of zones, but like as the movie goes, yeah, it's every time we are at a new location. Like in fact, we go right to racers passing through like a kind of rundown looking place, and the sort of like subtitle says Upper Shittsville.
Well, yeah.
Formerly Baltimore.
I mean, have you been to Baltimore?
Yeah.
It's not wrong. No,
Right.
I'm not kidding. But we also get Von Kramer having a good time in Abe. He's entertaining her.
Yeah, she's wearing a VR headset and just masturbating while he's, controlling where
Literally the most realistic thing I think in this movie is that when AI probably people are going to use it for that.
Yeah, people are going to use AI for porn, and also, I mean, already people are using like the self-driving Teslas and having sex and putting videos. I've seen multiple videos on the internet and in various places
those
of people
god-awful
having sex.
things.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely not trust a Tesla to...
Yeah, no, it's a great way to get in a wreck, for sure.
So yeah, in this case, we've got Minerva passes her, and Abe's like, should we do something to deal with her? And
Send out the drones.
yeah, so they a bunch of drones kind of start swooping towards Minerva, but she does fine. I think she just kind of like dodges them or something.
Yeah.
Like,
They're very ineffectual. Which you'd think AI would be slightly better. Maybe this is a brand new AI. Who knows? I don't get it.
yeah, and then we have a guy sitting at home watching the race, and his wife's like, "Hey, we need more
Mood whiz
yeah, so this is just like easy cheese, in a can
with an
except
antidepressant. in it.
Yeah.
Fair, man. I mean, if you're eating cheese whiz, you got to be depressed. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah. And he's like, but the race is on. And she's like, come on, like everybody in the family needs this. We're all sad. And he's like, okay, fine. So,
This is therapy in a can, right?
yeah. But like as soon as he steps out the door, Tammy drives past and just chops him in half.
Right. And his wife cheers. It's like she set him up. She's like, oh, we're going to. It would be great, though, if they did a bit where she like won a stupid board game or like something like that later, right?
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah, that in the last one we had like the vacation and everything, but yeah that would have been a good gag here. And then we go to our rebel group, of course, the resistance fighters. They're watching the race. They're really angry. It's time to fight back. And here, before we had like the sort of main leader who was like, I have this one plan that is sort of non-violent, and the other guy being like, we need to be terrorists. We need to go wild. Here it's kind of the reverse. We have like the leader who's like, we got to go all out. And we have one guy who's like, maybe we should form a committee. Then we can discuss possible protests.
Peaceful protests.
Yeah. Just, the most ineffectual, like, non-profit kind of stuff.
So according to the credits, this is Yancey Butler. If you've seen like a lot of movies from the 80s and a lot of stuff from the is she one of the asylum people? I feel like she's been in asylum movies. I may be wrong.
That seems right.
Yeah, more recently. But she's playing Alexis Hamilton, who's kind of, I guess that's a joke on Thomasina Payne to a degree.
Yeah.
But yes, she is.
And I think especially because like the Hamilton musical was, big at this time, so I'm sure that's why they picked Hamilton. But yeah, obviously, again, more just self-referential stuff, making this a remake and not a sequel.
Right, yeah. But yeah, as you said, the joke is that she's the one who wants to to lead like a violent revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so she's like, she sends out like a mob of like protesters on motorcycles and in jeeps, and she's like, we need to kill all the racers, put an end to this race. It's obviously like very terroristic, like violent sort of stuff here.
This is a joke kind of on the far left, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but the answer is that they're more in the middle of the two, where the violence is coordinated, and it's not really against people so much as it is property, but still.
Yeah. At that point, we go back to Minerva, and she's like, I need to level up. Like, I haven't made any kills, and I'm kind of at the bottom of the pack here. So her proxy's like, I got an idea, and so he gets on a megaphone and is like, everybody, fans, it's Minerva, come out and see her perform. And she starts, performing her song through the megaphone as she's driving around.
Right, she gets a bunch of goth groupies to come out.
Yeah, but before she can run them down, Tammy swoops in and runs over them instead.
That
so
kill-stealing bitch.
Yeah. And we go from that, we cut to Frankenstein, who is elsewhere. He's speeding through Biscuit Planet Incorporated, formerly known as West Virginia.
I mean, I don't see the difference here. You said the same thing twice. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's trying to actually get an interview from him. She used to be a reporter, basically, and she said she's done a lot of reports on the biggest stuff that's happened recently.
Yeah.
Turns out, Frank don't give a shit about her interview. He's not in it. He's not about it.
And it's fun because she's like, I used to do this. And he's like, oh, hey, fine. Like, after a while, he's like, fine, you can ask me 3 questions. And she asks the most, like, basic bitch, yes or no questions, and he answers them all no.
Right. And he's like, here's what you should ask. Ask open-ended questions.
Yeah. You said you were an interviewer. You should know better. Like, you got to ask questions that'll fish things out of me. Like, if I can answer with one word, I'm going to do that.
Make them open-ended, right?
Yeah.
And he asked her, how does she feel about that?
Yeah. Yeah, see, he's like, that's how it's done.
Yep. Oh, and let's go back to another shot-for-shot remake of the original, except for we now go to the Bieber School.
Yes. This is Bieber Elementary, and we've got a bunch of... It seems like they're all Asian kids, or mostly Asian kids, and they're all in wheelchairs.
Literally the head... what would you call him? Not director. Principal. Wow, I've been out of school that long. It literally addresses them as the Asian parents of these children.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you would say that, but okay. But yeah, they're putting kids who cannot walk and are in wheelchairs in the road.
Yeah, and it seems like the implication here, especially, like, I feel like the Asian thing makes this a little racist because I feel like it's kind of implying, like, these kids are no good. We don't want them, we don't want to waste our resources on defective wheelchair kids, so let's get them all run down so we can have, and I think Western culture has this idea that Asian populations are like this, that, like, we're going to, in the whole thing of, like, we're not going to keep our daughters and all that. And there may be a little bit of cultural stuff about that, but not the way that Western culture
really plays up on it, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like, one of our greatest luminaries of the modern age is a person, or was a person who was in a wheelchair, who had a robotic device talking for them, right?
Yeah. But here, Frank kind of, like, sort of stakes his place as, like, being sort of heroic and not fitting in with this sort of, like, societal nonsense.
Yeah, but he does say fuck those teachers and their parents, the kids' parents.
Yeah. So before we had the scene where he ran down all the doctors instead of the elderly people. Here he runs down all the parents and teachers and leaves the kids, which of course now they're a bunch of, like, orphans, which is not great either. But
it's like, well, I mean, they got inheritance. They're fine now, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess, if they've got shitty parents who are trying to get rid of them, they're probably better off without them anyway.
Right. And then Junior, who is literally the name of the exact same character, makes the exact same joke about how that Frankenstein has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
It was funny last time, though, because, like, the joke was the first time it was told, and he went after the doctors and nurses, right? Mm-hmm. Not as funny the second time. You usually you don't get much mileage.
You need to, like, if you're going to retell a joke like that, you have to shift perspective and change it.
Yeah.
We do get another, so Annie is like, oh, you're such a softie. You wouldn't run down those kids. And he's like, nah, just wheelchairs would fuck up my paint job. So that's a little bit better joke than the announcer just rehashing the old one. But so then we go to Kirkland Tenements, formerly Tennessee, which I don't know. It was Kirkland, like it's two separate words.
It's a Costco joke for sure.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we go back to Von Kramer, who is still masturbating in the car. While she tries to run over someone who appears to be unhoused, like he's, I think, pushing a shopping cart.
Well, it's the same joke of the old lady, like, oh, we could run down the old lady, but it's really a guy in a outfit.
So yeah, it's a trap. Suddenly Von Kramer is surrounded by resistance fighters who end up getting the car to pull over. They drag Von Kramer out and capture her. And we get like the rebels are like speaking into her VR camera to like
but
tell
the government
cuts.
They cut the feed so that America doesn't have to listen to the rebels.
Yeah, and where that like, sorry, we're experiencing technical difficulties kind of screen. Instead of that, we just have a bunch of girls in bikinis dancing around to distract.
Right.
Which it's like, this is how dumb Americans are. This will distract them. And
it's like you hang up you jiggle the keys in front of the little kid's face or the baby's face.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then we the rebels, of course, are upset that their feed has been interrupted. Mm-hmm. And
they're like, oh, fuck it, kill Kramer. Right?
Yeah, but instead, Abe, he's AI. He doesn't need Von Kramer to drive, so he just starts running over a bunch of the rebels.
Right. He kills everyone except for Von Kramer, and she's like, hey, baby, you remember me. You don't want to kill me. And he's pretty much like, fuck you. You didn't do anything for me. I was doing it for you.
He's like, well, I'm done with the race. Like, yeah, he just heads out. He's got his own sort of goals now.
Yeah. Well, he was planning his robot rebellion, right? The robot uprising.
Yeah. So now we go back to Frankenstein and Annie. They're talking about the chairman. She's like, oh, I'm sure you guys are great friends and you play golf all the time and everything.
We don't really play golf because every time we do, the wind goes. That's actually funny.
Yeah, so we've got now Frankenstein on camera to the nation, mocking the president's bad hair. And of course,
he's like, "Yep, that's it. We're done."
Yeah, he's not happy about that at all. So, then we cut to some road workers. Again,
literally the same joke.
Yeah, so many of these scenes are just like slight variations or even not variations at all of scenes from the previous movie. Mm-hmm. Here they're talking about like the joys of being middle class.
Yeah, I could afford sunscreen. 2 bottles of sunscreen or sun lotion.
Yeah, and then Jed comes through and runs them both down, or he runs one of them over and then like harpoons the other one through the leg and drags him for a while. Yeah,
but then what does his proxy say? And he's just like, oh fuck it, and then reverses and runs the guy over.
Yeah, Jed's proxy is talking about Frankenstein. Yeah. He's like, oh, don't say that word. It's a bad smell in the car just hearing that word. Like, take it back.
Take it back.
But then Frankenstein does pull out in front of them, like from like a cross street.
Oh, he's so mad about that.
Yeah, and then we get to the Appalachian Desert. And this one, the gag is really good because it says the Appalachian Desert, formerly Atlantic Lumber Incorporated, formerly Kentucky.
It's like they know. They just know.
Yeah.
But we get more terrible CGI as the rebels attack.
Mm-hmm. This time it's and she's like, the road's all empty, I need some kills, and then she's just like swarmed by all these rebels, and it's like, oh, this is perfect.
Right.
So she actually manages to kill several of them. She's like, they're not going to steal my thunder. And then we cut right from her doing that to Frankenstein and Jed, who are passing the
checkpoint.
Yeah, so they're at checkpoint 1. It's,
which is the 3 seasons Columbus, because winter is just a myth.
Yes. That was a really good job. I mean, like,
solid.
It's a really...
You know, the writers, they've got something. I don't know, like, where they went wrong, but they, you know, their comedy's pretty good.
Yeah, it feels like, you know, like a lot of times with like a sitcom or something, you have one person who writes the plot stuff, and then a couple people go back in and do like punch-ups on and make better jokes. Mm-hmm. And this feels like someone just took the plot of the original and then had like a comedy, a sitcom writing team just put a bunch of updated jokes in it. Mm-hmm. And so the jokes are good, but it's just a shame that the plot is exactly the same. They could have done something a little more creative here.
Right. Now, according to this, the screenplay was by G.J. Echternkamp, who's also the director, and Matt Yamashita. So, I don't know, maybe Echternkamp, you know, had something.
Yeah.
Except for, and someone told them you have to basically do the same plot.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you know, like Roger Corman has a pretty long-standing history of remaking his own stuff, like having different directors. You know, I guess the best example, of course, is Little Shop of Horrors that went from just like a very low-budget basic horror movie to like a brilliant comedic musical. Yeah. But here, it's not the same. Like. Yeah. Those, you see a drastic change in things from the remake, and it's doing a whole new thing for a whole new generation of people. Here, that it just doesn't quite work the same.
Not at all.
Once everybody is now like kind of arrived at the checkpoint, we find out Tammy is still in the lead for kills. Minerva, like, you know, is being interviewed, and she really leans into like the racial stereotypes here. She's kind of doing like a wrestling promo kind of call out, like, Tammy, I'm coming after you. I'm going to get you in the next leg of the race and everything. But, you know, it's just, you know, like she's got a big gold chain on and you know, it's just a lot of it.
It's rough.
Yeah. But of course, because you know, she's using a lot of like racially charged language, eventually the feed gets cut because I guess, you know, the broadcasters think she's being too edgy even. Yeah.
And then we get back to our Janice Pander. By the way, Janice Pander, her joke is my very special friend.
Mm-hmm. You know, same joke as last time. Calls everybody her best friend.
Yeah, but she wants to know. She asks specifically Jed, what's it like when the cameras go off?
Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, you know, I'm built with the testosterone of 500 men, so. Me and my proxy go back to the room, and it's like she's having sex with 500 men at once, and it's awesome.
Right, because sex with 500 men is awesome.
Right.
Okay, so Jed this is where he starts taking the gay stereotype route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll kind of have this ongoing thing where like the public-facing version of Jed is that he is like hyper masculine in all of like the toxic masculinity kind of ways, but behind the scenes he's not. He's very insecure. He is not attracted to his proxy or to women at all, probably.
Right. He's kind of attracted to Frankenstein in a violent fashion.
Yeah. Like, in fact, you know, so he's being massaged while this is going on.
Yeah, I'll drink your tears and lick them off your handsome face.
Yeah. He's wearing like a little gold Speedo or something, and Frankenstein arrives. And the reporters are like, you're not wearing your mask. Tell us what's going on there. And he just doesn't answer at all.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, like you said, he bumps into Jed, and they kind of have this sort of like pissing contest kind of thing. And Frankenstein's like, didn't they engineer you any clothes?
Right.
And Jed just kind of like stands there speechless as he storms off.
He got him. But then we cut to the chairman. Who's addressing all the other richest people in the United States. He says, do you remember salespeople? Who the hell would gladly remember salespeople?
Yeah. And waitresses, like he's just like, don't you miss the working class, like having servants around doing stuff?
Yeah. I feel like if they're rich, they do, though.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something about being able to like berate an actual human instead of just like having a computer to deal with.
Yeah, right. You don't get as much enjoyment out of subjugating a computer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so yeah, he has the chairman's new idea is we're going to market Jed as the next big thing. It'll distract the workers from reproducing, and maybe we'll be able to have like a working class again.
Yeah.
And they're like, what about Frankenstein? And he's like, Frankenstein might be extinct by tomorrow.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah.
So we actually learned that this Frankenstein actually has a robotic arm now, as he's repairing it.
Mm-hmm. And we see that Annie is in the shower, and suddenly a hologram appears in the shower, and this is
Alexis Hamilton.
Yeah, and so that she's like checking in, like I guess this is our first definite indication that she's part of the rebel group.
That's okay.
Oops, can't say that name again. Fucking AI. Yep. Sorry about that.
Oh, that was perfect.
She just started going off. I don't even know what the hell she was saying.
But of course, Annie doesn't want to be overheard, so she keeps responding to Hamilton by singing what she's saying, so that it just sounds like she's singing in the shower.
Right, and she's like, he's right over there. And Hamilton starts singing back.
Yeah, she's like, you got to take care of Frankenstein tonight. Like, he can't, go on to the next leg of the race. This is, what we brought you in for. You're in this position.
Right, he's got to go.
Take advantage of it.
Now, tell me this, Anthony. What the hell is the thing she puts in her crotch? Because it looks like a gator clip.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's kind of like a bear trap, vagina dentata type of thing.
But she, puts a prison shank in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know it's supposed to stretch. I don't know if it's supposed to go like that, though.
I know that there does exist a sort of similar technology in, I think some parts of Africa, people use them as, anti-rape devices.
That makes sense,
But this, yeah, in this case, I think it's supposed to kind of position her as being I'm going to use sex as a weapon or whatever, yeah. But, it never really gets you, it's just kind of a non-gag. Right. It doesn't really go anywhere.
It's the anti-Chekhov's gun, right?
Yeah. Because, she comes out and instantly, she's trying to seduce him. He's not really interested. He's busy working on his arm and is, just a gruff kind of grumpy dude who's not, wanting to have sex with her.
Right, and then we get the racket in Jed's room where he's, his co-pilot is, having sex with 500 guys. Well, she's simulating it because they're not.
Yeah, we just hear the sounds and then we cut to them and she's just bouncing up and down on the bed making, moaning and squeaking and whatever.
Initially it looks like they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, you think she, you see her from the waist up and you think she's bouncing on him, but nope, she's by herself. He's sitting, over at the desk or whatever.
Right, he's coaching her, make more squeals like you were being railed by 500 men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to be really convincing so everybody knows how great I am.
Well, then he says, no, you're doing it wrong. Let me show you how it should sound to be railed by 500 guys.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Then we go back to Annie and Frankenstein, and she's like, why do you like this race so much? You don't seem to really like anything. Why are you, what's the big deal? And he's
it's my job.
It's my job. Most people don't have a job. I find this fulfilling. I've dedicated my life to it. I'm really good at it. And nobody is good at anything anymore. Everybody just lets the robots do everything. So, if it gives me a sense of fulfillment that I have something that I actually contribute to society.
Yeah, I really feel like most of humanity would actually be more like Frankenstein than other people in this movie. Maybe I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. And, I just have so much of the creativity, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there would be people who are just cool, I'll just watch Price is Right until I die.
I would hope not, right?
I think most people, they would go out and do something, right. Whether they're just gardening for themselves or they're, writing a book or whatever. People want to do things that give them a sense of fulfillment,
But his complaint is we're all followers. We forgot how to survive, so I'm going to keep on fighting for myself.
Yeah. And so he kind of like collapses on the bed, like, just kind of is laying there. And she goes over and starts helping him with repairs on his arm and is like, okay, now can we fuck?
Right. It's like, oh, okay. So interesting. But no, he doesn't sleep with passengers.
Yeah, he says passengers or ladies who sing something in the shower. I rewound it like 3 times and could not hear what he was saying, but it's not just ladies who sing in the shower. There's a word in there somewhere that I'm missing. But, obviously she's upset about this. She storms out.
She hears some noises. It turns out it's not Jed in his proxy. It's Tammy and hers.
Yeah. So Tammy, being sort of like this, powerful, cult leader woman, of course, you go in, or she bursts in there, and it's like this whole sort of like dominatrix kind of setup where, she's got her proxy tied down and is, doming him or whatever. Yeah. And
she's bare-ass naked.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, oops, and she just backs out.
I'll let you do whatever you're doing.
Yeah. So then the next morning, Frank wakes up alone, and it's like the race is getting ready to start. Like he's getting like the announcers talking about stuff.
Yeah, today's a special day. Day 2, they're moving through like the Midwest, more of the Midwest / the Heartland, as they call it, where pedestrians shoot back.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the big change. I
feel like once they moved into Appalachia, though, people would start shooting back immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, Tennessee and Kentucky, come on.
Yeah. Hell, Boston.
We get
shit.
Right, yeah. And Baltimore, people. But so Frank goes out to his.
Sorry.
Yeah. Frank rushes out to his car. Annie is like kind of bent over, like working on something, but sort of seductively at the same time. And she's like, I'm just tuning up the car, and they kind of both sort of apologize for the night before. Yeah. Like, sorry, it's kind of a jerk or whatever. Like, it seems like they're maybe starting to bond just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And then we also get a guy asking for Jed's autograph. The guy gets taken out immediately. So he's the first kill of the day.
Yeah. And Jed speeds off, and he instantly starts berating his proxy, and he's like, I know, like, I couldn't perform last night, but it's not my fault. I'm not impotent.
You're just not pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or masculine enough, right?
Yeah, right, yeah. So we got the racers. Now they're speeding through Walmartinique, formerly Arkansas.
Is it wrong?
Right, yeah. And we've got Tammy and Minerva again kind of speed off in their own directions to fuck with each other. Jed tries to harpoon Frankenstein's car. He's like behind him, and he's like, I'm going to take you from behind, old man.
Right.
All right, come on.
Piling on those metaphors, are we?
Yeah. Frankenstein, like, to kind of like unhook from Jed's harpoon, drives straight through like basically a shooting gallery where there's pedestrians on either side of like this corridor, just like sticking guns out of like cutouts in plywood.
Yeah, because this is 2016, they're specifically going through the red zone.
Yeah. Frankenstein's ducking, and they're all the cars are getting shot up. And then I will say this was a decent sort of variation on a repeat moment. In the previous movie, you had Frankenstein have Annie climb out to do tune-ups on the engine.
Right, but that was more of a haze, right? Because she could have fell off and...
Yeah, but here, she's actively being shot at, and also there is a harpoon stuck into the car that she needs to get disconnected. So it makes more sense why she would have to, and also the stakes are obviously way higher.
Right. Versus him just being an asshole.
Yeah. So she's working on that, and right before she gets it disconnected, the cable manages to chop a guy in half, and the announcers are
they
like,
split it between Jed because it's the other end of the harpoon's connected, or the rope's connected to his car.
Yeah, so they both get half the points on that one.
Which, okay, that's all right. That's okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good, yeah. And then the announcer's like, all right, let's look at the scores again. So since Abe, the AI car, has been disqualified, Minerva is not...
She's not dead last.
She's not technically in last place. Yeah. But she does still have the lowest score currently. Yeah. And then we go to Minerva, and Minerva is not in a great place
she
for
sees
Minerva.
The traitor flag.
Yeah, there's Confederate flags everywhere. She's somewhere in the South. She's a black woman, and her proxy is Latino, right? Like,
I would say Filipino, but yes,
okay.
I mean, arguably, sure.
He is of color for sure. So neither one of them are in a good place to be.
Yeah.
Even in our regular current world climate, but like especially in this sort of hyper realized dystopian version of America.
Yeah, exactly.
She starts trying to play her song again,
but she switches it up. She switches it up to the more country version, right?
Yeah, there's like banjos in it and everything. And she's trying to like rap in a twangy voice. It's not going over well. And then we cut to New Texaco, formerly Texas, where Abe is driving around by himself and realizes that he's going to need to fuel up again and has no arms.
Right. So he goes to a wooden Native American.
Yeah, there's, just one of those like dime store or, like cigar store, I guess, statues that you often see. But this one is out in front of a gas station.
He says, ma'am, if you'll tell me directions, I won't kill you.
Yeah. And he's trying to get this person to give it, to fill up his tank. And of course, it's a statue. Right. Obviously, he's not going to. So he gets angry and, eventually... Does he run over the statue or does he just drive off?
He runs it over for sure. Like, he breaks it into pieces.
He's reckoning with, like, the fact that he's not alive. Like, he's sort of dealing with, like...
Yeah, he's having an existential moment, yeah.
Yeah. And from there, we go to
Pakistan. Oh, fucking A. Specifically, this is Tammy's home turf.
Mm-hmm. This is Kansas. Mm-hmm. And we've got actually here we're not with the racers. We've got
her cult.
Yeah, the Miss Pander is there to interview some of her cult, and they're all eagerly awaiting Tammy arriving.
Right, but Miss Pander's smart. She's like, "Oh, Tammy's here. It's my time to go."
Yep. And so Tammy's like, "All right, I need your help with something," and they're like, "Of course, whatever you need."
All right, do you all want virgins? Do you want chicken wings? All right, I need y'all to line up because we're going to the Hooters in the Sky.
Yep. So she's going to run down a bunch of her followers, but in a reverse of earlier, Minerva swoops in.
Kills her
she
cult.
Runs over. Yeah, so...
Oh, by the way,
now
her cult lines up in, like, Tammy's name, but once Minerva runs over, they're somehow rearranged into Minerva's.
Yeah, makes no sense.
Whatever. It's still funny.
But yeah, Tammy is pissed, of course. And so their rivalry continues. Meanwhile, we're back with Frankenstein and Annie.
Yeah, he's just bitching that most people are followers, which, like, I'm not going to say, I feel like the problem is everyone's trying to be a leader, but we haven't found the balance between leaders and followers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a middle ground there. I think this movie pretty much fully just deals in extremes, so it makes sense that there's not a lot of gray area. I guess the first one was the same way, but the first one, I don't know, it didn't feel as tone deaf.
Yeah, well, because at the time there was an option more... I wouldn't say there's an option for both, because there is an option for the middle. Like, the middle didn't seem as radical.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a weird fucking thing to say, but sure, the middle's radical now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, because, in our current society, the people that are sort of like the centrists, they're actually far right people.
Yes.
Like it's...
Actual centrists,
everything has shifted so far that it's all distorted and...
Fuck you over in your window.
Yeah. But Frankenstein... He doesn't quite have it figured out. He thinks he's the one guy who know, and I think the main part of the conversation here is that they hear that Tammy is, his followers have died or whatever, or her followers have, and Frankenstein's like, that's a shame. I mean, at least Tammy was giving people something to believe in. I think that's good.
I disagree with you, Frank.
Yeah, there's plenty of things that you can believe in that you shouldn't believe in. We see that all the time with flat earthers and anti-vaxxers and all the nonsense. He kind of does another test for her where he's like, can you hold on to the wheel? I've got some maintenance I need to do under the dashboard.
Well, I think
he's
it's legitimate. I think he literally has to fix, like, the nitrous or whatever it is.
Yeah. But, so he's, like, under the, kind of, like, crouched down in the seat.
But whatever you do, don't
just,
turn the car at all.
Yeah, just keep it straight on the road. We'll be all good.
Right. Instead of a kid, we have a cat.
Yep, a cute little kitten in the road, and she's, like, panicked. Like, should I just hit the cat? Is this the test? Does he want me to hit the cat? Yeah. And, like, at the last minute, he pops up and, like, sees the cat and swerves around it, and he's like, you were gonna hit that cat?
Right.
She's like, you told me to keep it straight on the road.
Like, I love animals, but man, fuck them cats. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, in this sort of weird world, like, yeah, it seems like a strange thing to be concerned about.
Well,
but,
I mean, yes, it's showing that they're the good guys, but also there's just so much weird, wacky shit that it's like, that's the stance we're taking. Okay, fair.
Yeah. And she's like, all right, well, now that we're, we've got all the technical issues fixed, how about lunch? So she pulls out a sandwich and hands it to him. And they're kind of getting along, they're bonding. He starts eating the sandwich, and he's like, what is this? And she's like, oh, it's cricket meal. And he's like, oh, God. Like,
I feel like you should have started with that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, okay, well, let's talk about your daily routine. What's a day? Here's an open-ended question for you. Yeah, and he's like, well, first thing I get up and I take care of my pets. I've got a cat and a dog. They're genuinely bonding now. He's really telling her honest stuff about his life, right. And she's like, is this another narrative? Is this a new way you're trying to spin this new version of the Frankenstein character?
No, he's being honest this time.
Yeah, and she's like, I'm still not sure if I believe it, but I like this version better, so let's go with it.
Right. He's like, well, what's a day in the life of Annie like? Annie Sullivan, what's that look like? And she's like, well, what do you think it looks like? And he's just like, you're beautiful, so, you get up, you must hear. Like, they're flirting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says, you're beautiful and smart, so I guess you, like, get up and sing songs with unicorns, and then in the evening, you're a brain surgeon. And she's like, that's pretty close. That's basically it. It's cute. They are flirting in like a way that feels genuine. Like they've slowly developed this bond and they're being playful. But I mean, like there's some sexual tension, but they're not there yet. I liked this scene quite a bit.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Then we're gonna cut to somebody has. We're gonna have a repeat of a joke in this movie already, where people have put out a bunch of political prisoners with the sign of whiners and, do I say the P word? It's for the female anatomy.
Yeah, and immigrants. Yeah. So we've got... This feels very Trumpian. Like that, these are the people that we would put in prison is, whiners and immigrants and
versus actual criminals, right?
Right. And we have Jed here driving through. He runs down this tied up group of prisoners
because he is the quote unquote perfect American, right?
Yeah. Then meanwhile, we go back to Minerva, who is still kind of dealing with the resistance.
Right. This is not the resistance. This is Tammy's cult. This is the remainder of Tammy's cult because they all have the vests.
Makes more. Yes, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So she's passing through merchandise land, and suicide bombers are attacking her, and her proxy ends up saving her, but he gets killed in the process.
Yeah, he somehow gets knocked out of the car, and one of the bombers basically latches onto him and blows both of them up.
Yeah. So she's upset by that, and then
she's like, "Fuck this race."
Yeah. Then we cut back to Frankenstein. Annie had gotten like a message that like there was a shortcut that they should try, but it ends up they get stuck, like they're stuck in mud, and he's like, "This shortcut sucks. You think this
seems
might
like a trap?"
Yeah. What do you think, co-pilot?
Yeah.
He gets out to kind of like try to get the car loose, and inside Annie's like, "I'm really sorry," and turns off her headset.
Yeah.
So, that instantly causes like a panic at the race HQ. They know something's going on.
Well, the president's not too worried about it.
Yeah. Like they're going to send some drones to pick up on what's going on. And then, Frank goes back to get in the car and Annie's gone. And he's like, what's...
Can we say that he is then attacked by corn ninjas?
Yes.
Ninjas of the corn.
Yeah. It's like 3 or 4 ninjas creeping through cornfields. We also see Annie getting away through the corn.
Yeah, she's sneaking away.
some announcers, or the announcers see the resistance ninjas coming, and they're like, should we cut the feed? What do we do? And the chairman's like, no, stay on this.
We want to see this.
Yeah, the people should know what their hero is made of.
That's right. Well, it turns out he's made out of some pretty badass stuff because he kills all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, gets a bunch of points, he ends up speeding off, and then pulls up next to Annie. He manages to get right to her.
Yeah, get in the car.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, thank God you found me. So those guys, they snuck up on me, they carried me away. Who were they?
He's pretty much like, I was hoping you would tell me that, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I'm feeling so sick from all this, and she bends down, and then she pops back up, having pulled a gun out of an ankle holster.
Oh no, it was like you were preparing to betray me the entire time.
Yeah, your inevitable betrayal.
Right. And it's like we haven't seen this movie before, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's like, turns out she's following orders, and he says, turns out you're just another follower.
Mm-hmm. But why me? And she's like, because you're a symbol.
He's like, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah. Which, you'd think him going on about Tammy's followers being a good thing, you think he would, respect that, she has an ethos
something
that she's following. But instead, he, just quickly, disarms her, gets the gun from her, and he's like, you got a weak follow-through.
Yeah. This is what happens to rebels as he runs one of them down.
Mm-hmm.
That jumps out in the middle of the road.
Yeah. I think he makes her pull or turn her headset back on. And yeah, he's like, was that a friend of yours? And then they ended up they pull into checkpoint 2, and he's like, get out of the car.
Yeah.
So he kind of abandons her there at the checkpoint and goes back into a hotel or whatever.
And she's trying to make the case, though, that this is her responsibility. This is what she has to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now we've got the announcers giving the end of day wrap up thing. Now we've got Jed at 245 points, Frankenstein at 240, Tammy at 215, and Minerva at 130.
Yeah. Oh no.
We cut to the hotel room where Annie has come back in. Frankenstein kind of left her in the parking lot, but she followed him in, and she's like, "Please don't turn me in. You should have just killed me on the road. Things are going to get really bad for me if people find out what I've been doing."
Right. He doesn't seem to care.
Yeah, and she's like, I guess I should have taken a chance on you. I should have trusted you. I made a mistake, and I'm sorry to have surprised you. And he's like, you didn't surprise. I knew you were resistance.
Right.
I didn't turn you in this whole time because I thought it'd be interesting. I just wanted to kind of go along for the ride. I don't give a shit about politics. I don't care about yours. I don't care about the chairman's. I'm in this for me.
Which that also seems like the bad call, right? The I don't care about politics.
Yeah.
Person.
Yeah,
it's like everything's politics, man. Everything.
Yeah. If you think you're too good for politics, you're contributing to the you're delusional, but you're also contributing to the political climate in ways that you're not aware of because you're not paying attention.
Exactly. One of the worst things is to set out, right?
Yeah, and that's pretty much Annie is pissed when he says that. She's like, people would listen to you. You have a responsibility. You can't act like this isn't happening. You talk about all this stuff about people needing something to believe in and needing to follow something, and you could be that, and you're choosing not to be. And he's like, I just want to race off into the sunset. I don't care. I want to do my own thing. And, I thought having a co-pilot might be nice. I thought this could be a good thing.
Right.
He, sits down, at a desk to, do some work, and she's like, don't turn your back on me. We're arguing. I could kill you. And he's like,
you're not going to do it.
Yeah, you don't have it in you. So she's grabs a fire poker, she's gonna hit him, and realizes he's right. So she storms out.
Well, she breaks a lamp. I mean, at least she does that.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is actually a funny joke.
This is great.
Oh yeah, you picked up on it too.
Yes.
She literally walks into Bechtel's bar and has a conversation with Minerva.
Yes. So
about nothing else but just about each other.
Yeah, so this scene
passed
is
the Bechdel test.
Yeah, this scene passes it. I guess at first I didn't think they were going to, because they Minerva's talking about her dead proxy, and Annie's talking about Frankenstein, and it's like, well, they have to talk about something that's not a man. That's the important thing here. Yeah. But they finally do.
This is where we actually learn Minerva was a Stanford graduate.
Yeah, she quotes which this is a real quote that's really great. I was not familiar with this.
Pasteur, or was it Pasteur?
Blaise Pascal.
Pascal. Yeah.
Pascal. And the quote is, all evil stems from man's ability to sit in a room alone, which is really good. Like, I was like, oh, yeah, that hits. Because, like, yeah, I can't just be alone with my thoughts. No, I need things. I need to be entertained. Like,
fuck self-reflection. That's the worst.
Yeah. But, of course, she says all of this in, like, no accent, no dialect. She's just... Right. And, of course, Annie's like, wait, what? And she's like, what? You don't think I spoke ghetto when I was off camera, did you? Yeah. I'm just doing this for the money. And Annie's like, yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, we're all doing what we can to get by.
Yep. So then we cut out to Jed, who's having a fucking moment of not being able to sit with himself.
Yeah, and he sees a commercial on TV for a product that's using him as its advertisement, and he didn't know about it.
It's what, creatine or protein powder or protein drink?
Yeah, it's called Protein Perfectus, and they're like, now you can eat what Jed eats.
Right. And it's like he's letting it drip on his face. It looks like something. You know what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, we're continuing with, like, the gay innuendos here, and yeah, he's drizzling, like, a white creamy substance all over his face in the commercial, and is like, and he's looking at it, and he, like you said, he's kind of being reflexive of, like, what does this make me feel about myself? And he has, like, a vision of himself in makeup and wearing a tutu.
Well, he sees a, what are they called? Like a snow globe, and there's a ballerina dancer. Mm-hmm. And then he turns into the ballerina dancer turns into him.
Yeah. And says, this is the real you. You need to accept this is who you really are.
Oh, no, he can't handle that.
Yeah, he just starts smashing the room.
I'm going to kill Frankenstein.
Yeah, he says, I am not a sissy.
Right.
He's so mad. And
he just attacks Frankenstein. Like, what would you do if someone just busts into your room and screams out, I'm not a sissy, and just comes at you? It's like, what the fuck?
And it's really funny. So, like, we see them fighting, and their fight is... It's not a particularly manly fight. It's not a slap fight, but it kind of almost is. And there's a part in there where he's like, tell me I'm beautiful. He says this to Frankenstein, and Frankenstein's like, what? And while this fight's going on, we keep cutting to the two women, Minerva and Annie, and they are arm wrestling. Like, they're doing a more manly kind of thing. So it's playing with gender stuff in a way that... This was pretty entertaining. I thought this worked.
Yeah. Best part of the movie, for sure.
Yeah. But then, in the middle of it, Annie bursts into the room and is behind Jed, and she just whacks him in the back of the head with the fire poker, and he collapses, and Frank's like, now that was sexy.
Right. There you go. Beautiful.
Yeah. We get a conversation between Frank and Annie. Like, now all their cards are on the table. We know how they all stand and everything.
This is their come to Jesus moment, right?
Yeah. And she's like, I can't leave the resistance. Like, this is... you said you spent your whole life becoming this racer. This is what I spent my whole life. This is my finish line.
Fuck. He's like, I get you. I get it.
Yeah. He's like, the world's fucked up. Everybody should have something to focus on.
Right. He goes back into the old man logic of people have stopped working. They've stopped fighting.
Yeah. And she's like, you should join us. You could fight with us. And he's like, no, the resistance isn't going to solve things. He's like, we need to do something bigger. We need to just wipe the slate clean. Leave the planet to the cockroaches and the cats.
That's very nihilistic, but I mean, sure, why not?
Yeah. And Annie's like, no, I still have faith. I think we can make things better.
Tammy has faith.
Yeah, Tammy has faith. Look what that's done. And she's like...
It's a different kind of faith, okay?
Yeah. And then we go back to the chairman. He's like laying in bed, and this woman comes in. Have we seen her? Like,
yes, we have, Anthony.
Okay.
Because she's Hamilton.
Okay. I was very confused about her because it was obvious that she was supposed to be someone, but she was like in a different outfit and stuff, and I was like,
she's in a fuck outfit.
yeah, she's in a dominatrix outfit. They're talking about like, okay, tomorrow's the big day.
We're going to break up the revolutionaries, and we're going to kill Frankenstein.
Yeah, everything's going to change tomorrow. So
literally it's saying the head of the revolution is also literally in bed with the president.
Yeah, and it seems like that's, it's a fake revolution that the the people in power can easily put down and make themselves. It's that like false flag kind of thing,
right? And it makes more sense. This makes a lot more sense as to why she was like, no, we can't use the peaceful methods first. We have to act and cause mass violence, because she's trying to whip up the crowd and get them going.
Absolutely, yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, which she will do here in a moment.
Yeah. So the next thing we see, it's like the next morning, we have the announcer who's like, okay, for the final day of the race, there's
Rules
new
have
safety.
changed.
Yeah, there's safety protocols to protect the racers from the resistance.
As long as you stay on the road, you're good.
Yeah, stay on our approved paths. Usually you can go however you want, but here, if you get off the beaten path, we can't guarantee your safety. So stay there. One of the reporters goes to talk to Jed, who is he's all bruised up from the fight the night before or whatever.
Yeah, he got fucked up.
And this is Miss Pander, right? And she hands Jed a note, and he's like, "What's that?" And she's like, "It's a piece of paper. Look at it later." And he's like, "Oh, okay, sure, I guess."
Right. It's like she gave him, initially you're like, oh, she gave him those digits.
Yeah. It had that sort of implication.
Yeah. Well, it's not, but still.
Meanwhile, we have Minerva and Annie. They're both getting into their cars, and they're wishing each other luck. They kind of had their bonding moment last night.
Yeah, this is the moment where Minerva's definitely going to die.
Because her and Frankenstein even kind of have kind words. Like, he's kind of like, I know this is your first one. You're doing all right out there, kid. Like, keep trying. And she's like, it's an honor to race alongside you, sir. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Who was the one from the first movie? What was her name?
It
wasn't Matilda, because that's the Hun, but
yeah, what was her name? It was Mary Warrenoff's character, Calamity Janie. Janie,
right.
Yeah,
she's the Calamity Jane of this movie, right?
Yeah, for sure. We cut from that to Abe, who is not with the racers getting ready to take off. He is in the Mormondia People Farm, formerly Utah. And he
initializes his bucket list protocol.
Yeah, because he's dying. He's not gotten gas. He can't do anything on his own.
That sounds terrifying. If an AI is like, well, this is it. I'm going down.
Yep, gonna do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Then we cut back from that to Frankenstein talking to Annie, and he's like, all right, we got to outrun Jed. We're way behind on points, and there's no pedestrians around because of all the safety protocol stuff.
But if we cross the finish line first, we'll get more points and win.
Yeah. So we've net there, like in the last movie, there was like a discussion specifically about like if Frank crossed first but had less points, he could still lose. It seems like one of those things where the finish line does give you some amount of points, but you still have to have the most, whether you've crossed first or not.
Right.
We don't know what that finish line point value is, but yeah, it's kind of like the golden snitch in Quidditch or whatever. Like it shifts the point values.
Right, but he specifically avoids his like followers who basically are sacrificing themselves for him.
Yeah, we had those people in the last movie, and Frank was like, I'm going to pay on, I'm going to honor them by killing them. But here he's like, no, I'm honoring the race. This is a contest. I'm not going to take easy giveaway points. That's not what this is about.
Instead of helping me, they should help themselves.
Yeah. And then we go back to, throughout this, we've had moments where we see the various commoners, regular people watching on VR that has not really contributed much. But from here, we cut to one of them, and they're like, what does he mean to help themselves? Like, what's, like, he's now having to kind of, like, deal with the philosophical situation here.
Man, I hope he goes on to be a very important part of the end of this movie. Anyway. Fuck.
So then we go back to Tammy and Minerva, who kind of continue their rivalry, and finally they're just like, fuck it. Let's just play chicken. And so they're speeding directly at each other.
Well, at the very last second, it turns out Tammy's proxy is he's not ready to die just yet, and he swerves.
Yeah. Obviously, Minerva and Tammy are both pissed about that. They're yelling, But then we see Tammy, she just throws her proxy out of the car with a suicide vest on.
Right.
Sort of punishing him for failing to do the chicken thing.
Yeah. She's like, no, we're going after this. We're gonna finish this.
Yeah. And Minerva tries to swerve around the suicide bomber, manages to drive off a cliff, and we get her car like flipping, down into like a rock quarry or whatever, but she somehow manages to fly out of the car and hit the ground and be okay. Or not okay, but not dead. She's alive.
For a few moments.
Yeah, so Tammy manages to get down to her and is like, they're going to like face off hand to hand, not, they're not even going to use cars anymore.
Yeah, but Minerva can't stand up.
Yeah, and Tammy's like, maybe you should convert to my, you're getting ready to go to heaven or, go somewhere. Maybe you should do follow my teachings or whatever.
Right, it's almost like she gives Minerva last rites with her redneck religion.
Yeah, but Minerva gets her back because she's like, I think maybe you're right. I think I see God. And he's black as fuck.
No, she's black as fuck.
Oh, she's black as fuck. Yes, even better. Yeah. And so she dies there.
Which is a nice fuck you.
Yeah.
And then Tammy's like, all right, bitch, here we go. That's fine. I outlived you.
But then suddenly Abe appears and drives directly into Tammy and crushes her like against the cliff wall.
Right, but she still lives for a moment, and she's like, that's not fair, you cheated. Like, she turns into the little petulant child, right?
Yeah. But of course, eventually Abe just explodes,
Yeah. He's like, this is it.
Yeah.
Fuck life.
Yep. So now we've gotten rid of Minerva and Tammy.
And Abe, finally.
Yeah. So yeah, we're down to our main two again. We've got the Resistance. They're talking about they've got one last idea. This is the final campaign of the rebellion. We have to give up on Annie. She let us down. We have to take care of this ourselves.
Yeah, we have to kill all the racers, right?
Yeah.
Well,
so,
Hamilton, and everyone's like, yeah, go for it. And then Hamilton's like, wow, that was really easy.
Right. So then we see the Bakersfield Retirement Community and Genetic Research Lab. Frankenstein's driving past, and then all of a sudden a bunch of rebels on motorcycles start surrounding him, and he's like, that's weird, I thought we were on a protected road as part of the race. Where are the rebellion coming from?
Right, and then we get a cut in from the president who's like, yeah, it turns out, fuck you.
Yeah, your time is up. And Frankenstein's like, you should jump out, Annie. You could be okay. You can claim I kidnapped you. And she's like, no, we're in this together now. I'm seeing this through to the end. I'm going to cross the finish line with you one way or the other.
It's good that she said that, though, because Hamilton's like, kill them both. Kill them all.
So then we get like an extended sort of chase/fight scene with cars and motorcycles. They're driving through just like a sort of nondescript obstacle course area. They just got things to swerve around. It looks like a paintball course that people are driving through or something. And most like Frankenstein's like causing the bikers to crash into things or running them over.
Yeah, he's just racking up points at this point.
And then like the final bit is like there was a joke earlier where Annie said something about like him doing suicide moves that were scary or whatever.
Right. He's like, this is a suicide move. And he does the thing where he gets the car up on two wheels.
Yeah, he drives through like a narrow doorway that the car's too wide for, but he's like up on two wheels enough that he gets through. But of course, the rebellion car coming behind him doesn't have time. They crash and explode and everything.
I feel like they could just hit the brakes and it would just be a fender bender instead of exploding.
Yeah.
But yeah, the leader, quote unquote leader, is like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. So now we see they're getting close to New Los Angeles, the land of 1,000 islands. So, it's like LA has gone underwater because of climate change and all that.
Right.
We see Jed. He's in the lead. He's
getting an escort.
Yeah, he's got government vehicles guiding him. He's headed straight to the finish line. And he's like, I'm going to win. And his proxy's like, this could be another case of premature celebration.
Fuck, calling him out on it.
Yeah. Elsewhere, we...
Frank pulls over and it's like, he offers Annie, he's like, yo, when we get to the finish line, we're gonna die.
Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, obviously, it's gonna be violent, but surely that's not gonna stop you, right? And he's like...
Yeah, but I don't want you to die.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know, there's an island off the coast, it's made of garbage, maybe we could set up there and just start a new life. And she's like, I can't do that. He's like, why not? She's like, because I couldn't spend the rest of my life with a man who finished second to Jed Perfectus. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, all right.
Yeah, so they kiss, and she's like, besides, the winner gets to meet the chairman, so obviously we're building to the same finale as before.
Yeah, except no grenade hand, or at least it hasn't been announced.
Yeah. So we've got Jed getting closer to the finish line, and all of a sudden Frankenstein speeds past him, and Jed is pissed. He has the proxy grab a hold of the wheel and is trying to climb out of the car to physically fight Frankenstein in his own car.
Right. And there's the moment where he's just kind of hanging out there, and I'm like, okay, how's he dying in this way?
Yeah, so Frankenstein kind of pushes Jed's car, that it rushes or runs off a cliff.
Yeah. And they're running right at the studio where Pander and Junior are. Mm-hmm. So Junior is like, well, looks like we're going to be signing off permanently. 60 points for Jed, and then boom, they all.
Yeah. And as Jed's falling, he's like, I am perfectus. I am perfection. Yeah. And then he sees a vision of himself in full makeup, very, drag makeup, very feminine. And the feminized version of him is not really.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess I kind of appreciate this portrayal of a person who is sort of plagued. Yeah, he's plagued by toxic masculinity. He wants to be this feminine version of himself. This is the true version of him. This is, I feel like there are probably maybe some trans viewers who could watch this and be like, I was this at one point. This was me before I finally came to terms with who I really am and accepting it and stuff. And of course, in this unfortunate situation, he never gets there. He dies. Right. But I think that there is a little something to the Jed character that is one of the better sort of portrayals of a conflicted person in a bad situation and trying to figure themselves out.
I kind of want to talk a little bit more about that at the end, because there is a little bit to everything here. It just, didn't quite get there.
Yeah. We're real close to the end here. So we have, when he crashes, we have Frank approaching the finish line. And he says to Annie, "Are you sure you want this revolution?" And she's like, "No, I just want to win the race." And he's like, "Hell yeah!" They're finally together. They both want the same things.
Right. And before they cross the finish line, Frank's like, and he's not addressing Annie at this point. He's addressing everybody in America.
Mm-hmm. He's talking right into the VR headset.
Yeah, we could go for this group of people. That's a couple hundred points. We could go for that group of people. Or we could go directly for the president. He's got to easily be worth 1,000 points.
Mm-hmm. And so we've got fans all over the country chanting, 1,000 points, 1,000 points.
Right. And the president's like, oh, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
Or jamming. Sorry.
And so Frankenstein just full speed ahead, just runs down.
It's like literally everyone sets up the chairman to be hit by Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so he crushes him, and Frankenstein gets out of the car and is like, you don't need the chairman. You don't need Frankenstein. You have the power. You need to make the reality of your own race. Get up out of your chairs. Get out of your houses.
Cars.
Yeah, turn off the headsets and may the best driver win.
Which, the idea is great, but apparently everyone in America is psycho.
Yeah.
Because instead of being like, oh, that was that was great, no, they all start just killing each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just see riots in the streets, people running each other over, buildings on fire. It's the purge. It is just full on.
Right.
Every man for himself.
And the one guy we've been following this whole thing, the poor schlub, is like, I'm going to kill everybody. He gets onto his motorcycle and immediately gets blown up with a rocket.
Yeah. And then we see that watching all of this play out, Frank and Annie, they're up on top of a cliff. And Annie's like, well, it's a start, I guess. Or maybe the end of civilization as we know it.
Right.
Frankenstein's like, they'll sort it out. It'll be fine.
Yeah, sure. As bombers come in and start bombing the whole city.
Yeah. So she's like, well, so what happens with us? And he's like, well, somebody's got to repopulate.
Right. That's boomer. That's very boomer. It's like, we're going to be the ones to survive because we have the skills. Yeah. Well, I mean, sure, maybe. I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah. And so that takes us to credits.
So as you were kind of alluding to, there's something there. But in what it took the original an hour and 15 to basically say, this one took an hour and 30.
Mm-hmm. And, it has... It's like all of the good jokes feel like outtakes from Idiocracy. It's all about the sort of like corporate dystopian America. That stuff was entertaining because yes, we feel like we're constantly on the brink of having like the Amazon and being like, well, of course, Amazon and Walmart and all these things that like that do feel like they're kind of taking over the world.
I mean, you best believe though, if corporate America could, they absolutely would.
Yeah, so that stuff, it's like it hits close to home, and it's silly enough that it's kind of entertaining.
Right, and then you also have the stereotypes, and like we talked about earlier, people leaning into them and maybe using them for their own benefit. Then you also have people who apparently hate themselves.
Yeah,
that's a thing.
Yeah, and I think the thing with both Minerva and Jed, by the time that we sort of like realize what they're sort of dealing with, they've already been like the butt of the joke for so long that it really it doesn't hit. Yeah,
I think that's a good statement for the entire movie. It takes the joke and just wrings it dry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the only person who probably could have gotten a few more, could have been the butt of a few more jokes is absolutely Tammy.
Yeah. Tammy is fun just because
she has no self-reflection because she just is. Like, she's pure id, right?
Yeah. And I can't imagine that there's anybody watching this movie that isn't like, that woman is awful and deserves bad things. But
there are people that are probably like, no, she's got to figure it out.
But I am almost certain that there are people who watch this movie and are like, oh, that Minerva, like, and having like racist opinions about the way about her, or
probably even Jed.
Yeah, the Jed thing, like, I'm sure there are people who are like, one, either think that he's just like a funny gay stereotype, like that is what those gays are like, they all want to be women or whatever.
Right. Well, there's also probably people that are like, shut up, don't talk to me. Yeah. Don't point that mirror at me, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. It feels like this movie either needed to be
longer or shorter.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it needed to be either smarter about some of this stuff or dumber. Like, it was trying to do some things and it just did not have the intellectual currency to pull them off.
Yeah. I mean, it was there, though. You could see the sign. So I don't know if maybe the other producers were like, yo, dumb it down a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those kind of things where it's like, sometimes you have a movie that it's like, oh, that was fine, and it would take a lot for it to be good. Like, this is a C+ movie that like would take a ton of work to be an A. This is like a C+ movie that like just with the right couple tweaks could have been A+. It just the problems with it were big enough that it really pulled it down in quality, but.
And the fact that it literally adhered to everything the first movie did so religiously.
Yeah. I like, last week I was talking, that I didn't really know about this movie and I wanted to kind of pair it. And I'm really glad we did. Like, having them together, I think was the right way to kind of look at these two. I think if we had watched this by itself months later, it might have felt a little fresher. We might have liked it a little more. But I think...
Maybe...
Yeah, we might not have remembered exactly how much it was beat by beat, the original movie. But if it's billing itself as a sequel, I think it deserves to be viewed in comparison to its predecessor, and it does not hold up so well compared to that.
And was David Carradine still alive at this time?
He might have... He probably died right around this time, actually.
He died in 2009. Holy shit, it's been that long?
Okay.
Yeah, so, okay, you couldn't have had him back if you wanted to. But, Keith Carradine still lives, right?
Yeah.
He could have been like a retired president that got usurped or, something.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting kind of take on it.
Right. Like he had us on track for a little bit and then we fucked it up again?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, it really would not have taken much to, like, make this be like, okay, yeah, we're 45 years since the race ended, things have changed, or, like, and go from there. But, like, we had to bring Frankenstein back to try to, he was the last time things were good, and so we're using this, sort of mythological hero that fixed everything in the past and try to bring it back again.
Right.
That could have been really cool, but instead...
Damn, Anthony, you just wrote a way better movie than the one we just watched.
Right, exactly. Like, I really think it would not have taken much punching up to make this so much better.
Yeah,
which is disappointing, when a movie's just mid and it's just, that's what it is, that's one thing, but when it's like this, where it's just like, you just
it could have been
missed the mark by just that much, and it's just, it feels like a waste.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, pure enough. That's what that was. It's really unfortunate. And like you said, if they had been smarter about the jokes, they would have landed better. Like, some of them were just good. Mm-hmm. A lot of the lines from Tammy and Jed,
Yeah.
Those are pretty solid one-liners, but the jokes about the people were not so great.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. The writer absolutely had the place names down.
Yes.
Solid.
Yeah, hands down the best part of the movie.
10 out of 10, no notes, right?
Yeah.
But, all right. Well, anything else we got to say about that?
No, I think that's it on this one.
Yeah, Anthony. So maybe next week we can do something a little special. How about we put on our long legs?
Yeah. So, we've obviously been kind of talking about this coming up. I think everybody's really hyped about this new movie. The buzz has been really big. So we obviously have to talk about it, especially since the director specifically said this has got some Frankenstein influence. So, yeah, we're going to check out Long Legs next week. We'll try to do, talk about it vaguely and then get into some spoilers and stuff. But yeah, if you've got time and want to watch it beforehand, we're going to talk about Long Legs next week.
It's going to be in theaters for a little bit longer, so get to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, where can they find us, Anthony?
So yeah, you can find us on all the socials at The Frankencast. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. You can also find us over on YouTube, and of course you can always find us at patreon.com/thefrankencast. We're always trying some new, odd kind of things, so we'd love to have you over there. There's a free trial still going on. You can join for a week, see what you like, and stick around if you want to.
Absolutely. Yep, check us out. All right, well, if there's nothing else to say, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.